Our archives are based on local authority material, which is made up of material from Galway County Council's predecessors, so that would be the poor law unions. They would have covered the workhouses. Galway County Council, like all local authorities, they were established in 1898, so we have a full run of their minutes. And then we have private collections, and that's primarily made up of a few landed estates. They tend to be the records of the administration, maybe legal documents, land leases, marriage settlements, wills. They tell the story of the owners of the big houses. We decided here in the archives that we would choose 4 select items that are dated from 1700s up to the 1900s from different parts of the county. We invited 6 artists from all different parts of the county to join us in exploring, reimagining, as we say, and reinterpreting these items.
Initially, when I saw Galway Jail, that the plans were up, I was immediately interested. I was chatting with my dad about it, and he happened to have a photograph that he took of the cathedral while it was being built, with the old jail walls still outside. Even looking at the plans, immediately I can see paintings from what I see on the drawings, the shapes, the arches, the cells. That's my first reaction.
When I came in here, I had one idea, but then the beautiful book of the St. George, and to see the quality of the paper and the watercolours and the ink marks and the writing, it's very hard not to respond to that in some way. Every one of them has something, and there's a few things there that just spark my interest as well, so I might end up doing something from everything, I don't know.
I kind of thought maybe when I saw everything in its realness that maybe something else would come to me, but no, it's always maps. I'm kind of hoping that using Google Maps and modern technology, I can kind of go back and trace that piece of land and make maps of now.
I'm very attracted to the latter. I know the area and I can make a physical connection to the space. I don't have an idea yet where it's going to bring me, the process, but as a starting point I do investigations through drawings and going to the place.
I love the book of St. George. I love the calligraphy of the script, the detail that was put into the drawings, and the interest that the author had in the livelihoods of the tenants. I found myself wanting to take apart the maps and see if they fit together like a jigsaw or do some contemporary installation. It's making me think outside the book.
We saw the 4 archives. I knew I was going to the jail. This was literally based on the actual plans of the jail. I have things in it like steps. To me, they represent the journey that they had to take up to the execution chamber. Then I got interested in the executions in the jail, but I couldn't do something on all the executions because it was just too many. So I picked an executioner called William Marwood, who had hanged 8 people in the jail. One thing that really struck me was the treadmill. They would actually put them like into stalls and a big wheel at the bottom that they would make them keep walking on. The red arrows convey that they were pinned in, basically, which they were. You research so much and you want to give everything its little voice. This is one of the good things about this project. It really does bring the archives to life.
I decided to respond to the whole 4 of them. I felt there was a link kind of between them all. I wanted to show something about the change in Ireland at the foundation of the state, the end of the landlord system. I looked at the NUIG database of the landed estates, and they had images of some of the big houses. I noticed there was little figures in the photographs or in the illustrations. I started to make little paintings of the buildings and add a figure as a witness to history. In the case of the Galway jail, In that painting I put a little figure running along, and when myself and my sister were children growing up in Galway, if there was somewhere that we were scared of, a house that we heard a story about, we'd run really quickly past that. And so I imagined children at the time running past the prison. There is an awful lot that artists can respond to in the archives. Your imagination can add to the facts that you're uncovering, you know.
I had this really complicated idea in my mind, making comparisons with now and then. I used the computer a lot to research whether these place names still existed or not. The whole complicated cartography didn't really work for me. So then I compiled all the maps together, went through all the text. Each map felt like it had its own personality, so I redrew the maps again. I used the original simple house shape, but I got rid of all the other more complicated map icons. I tried to stay as true to the dimensions and where the houses sat. That time of life was so difficult, and I'm having fun doing this, so I want to convey that. Right from the start it was shapes of the past, and then it became shapes of the past minus the hardship. I think the project puts you in a place where your influences are completely different than they normally would be. You're working with completely different material that you might never have randomly come across. There's a mountain of resources out there that I didn't even think of.
I stayed with the letter, but I thought that I would be working in printmaking. That's what I planned. I went to the site first, where the Lawrence house used to be. Then I read the letter again, and I was more interested in the idea of letter writing. I started to do watercolor drawings. It's more desk-like, and it's more emotionally drawn as well, which you maybe can relate more to letter writing in that sense. I imagined that I'd be sitting on one of these desks, and then I try to join the conversation of writer and recipient. The project made me aware of that in everything. There's a story, or I can find something interesting when I dig a bit into it. Yeah.
Initially, I was drawn to the book by St. George, and I began researching the landlord. As I investigated, I found that I was more intrigued by the writing by Charles Frizzell, the surveyor, and by the intricate drawings. I drove out to Headford one fine day and I took photographs of the Headford area from the maps. I found a beautiful field with bales of hay, so I painted the bales. I photoshopped the writing of Charles Frizzell into the painting. I was delighted with this initial collaboration between myself and the surveyor of the 18th century. The top level of the chandelier has Richard St. George Mansera and his wife Anne Stepney, the original two landowners at the time the book was written. The bottom level has delicate maps as drawn by Charles Frizzell. Doing a project like this opened the conversation. It brings history alive and it brings it into our kitchens, which is no bad thing.